Alright, so I'm certainly making good progress on this Axial Ryft R EX10 kit. I figured I'd make a quick video, just kind of update where I'm at as far as the build, and show you anything that I noticed while building the kit. Now I did get these black Mambas put together on the Vice Crusher wheels. They weren't hard to put together at all, just kind of sandwich the Vice Crusher wheels into the tire. I use the small hubs for now. I'll see how things fit once I get the kit together. Now when you start off with the diffs, and these are fairly straightforward. There was really no hang-ups, nothing really that was confusing. I did lock out the center diff. You do not put oil when you lock out the diff, so you just put this little spacer in there and then the center diff is locked. The kit comes with 1,000,000 weight oil. Now mine was exploded in the bag that it came in. However, I did have enough to get the diffs, the front and rear diffs, oiled up. The front axles, everything went together really well. No issues there. And everything was very straightforward until I got to the servo horn. Now I did attempt to use the servo horn that was provided in the kit. However, I had a really tough time trying to get it together, and I ended up stripping it out. There's a few springs that you have to kind of get in there, and when I tried to finagle the springs, I ended up stripping the plastic out. And once I stripped that plastic out, I really could not get this thing to fit correctly. So I was planning on doing this anyway, but I jumped the gun and then went ahead and ordered the 6061 T6. This is the Axial 25 tooth servo horn. Now this does not have a servo saver on it, so if I do take a hard hit, I do run the risk of stripping the gears out in my servo. But with the Reefs 444 heavy duty steel geared servo, I think I'll be okay. I do like how the front diff cover is metal. I think that's pretty cool. And you just have to make sure you use a little Loctite for the screws in the back to hold this diff cover on. Loctite, thread lock, it is provided in the kit, so one less thing to worry about. The rear axle was very simple to put together. A lot easier actually than the front. No hang-ups there, pretty straightforward, just follow the directions. The kit does come with grease. It comes in this little tub, which is different than previous builds that I've done, but it worked. It didn't leak. It was good to go. Bag C has you doing the links, and really these weren't too bad. There's actually this hole in the center. I haven't built a kit in a while, so I know this hole's been out for a little bit, but this is the first time I've built a kit with this hole, and it actually makes things fairly easy. You can stick a 1.5mm driver into the center of here, and it helps you spin on the ends. And when you build the links, just be careful. There is a small line on the link. It's kind of hard to notice, but there's a line. Make sure you're putting things on the right side, and then also make sure you're using the right pivot ball for the right eye. Transmission was easy enough, just follow the directions, no real issues here. The directions start out with the 2-speed, however there is the single speed option should you choose to build the single speed. I built the dual speed, so I did end up with one extra gear. The only hang up I had here is this rod. This actually goes to the fork, which helps the transmission shift. And you just have to make sure that you screw this in to the plastic, and then also make sure you screw it into the fork. Now I am running the 2-speed transmission, so I did throw in the SX107 from Spektrum. This is a micro server which will allow me to shift between high and low gear. Once assembled, everything should feel nice and smooth. Now this kit is designed for a 550 can with a 5mm shaft. However, I went with a HobbyWing 2800 kV. This is a 540L can. This is a part of the Xerun axe system, and the motor does have a 3.175 shaft. So in order to get this motor to work, I did pick up these little spacers. These go onto the 3.175 shaft, and it makes it a 5mm shaft. This will widen out the shaft to allow the M1 gear to fit, and it is the first time I'm using this, so we'll see how these work out. Now even with the 540 can, the bolt pattern that they recommend on the manual, it works. So just follow the manual, there's no changes needed. Now the ESC I'm using is the HobbyWing Axe Xerun. Now there is an XT60 connector that comes included, already soldered on. I will have to solder on these 3 wires, and this is a sensored motor, and it comes with a kind of cool plug-in style for the sensor. It makes a very tight, secure connection, and I believe it helps the waterproofing as well. The shocks are very straightforward, just follow the directions, but there are 2 long and 2 shorter shocks. Make sure you're putting the right things on the right shock, but overall these are very easy to build. I do like the fact that there's a bump stop, this little orange piece at the bottom here. These bottom out, it'll hit that bump stop, and it just helps the shock when it bottoms out. The shock oil actually comes in a child-proof capped bottle. You have to press down and kind of spin it. I've never seen shock oil come in a child-proof bottle before. These shocks are certainly nice. They have an aluminum body with an aluminum top. This is a plastic, say, top piece, but they feel very nice and they feel very smooth. I've heard some people complain about the shock noise with the spring rubbing against the aluminum, say, threads, but whatever, it's not that big of a deal. And really the last thing that I kind of got going was the cage itself. If you've ever put together an axial kit, this cage should be fairly familiar. There isn't really much different from, say, previous builds like the Bomber or even the Wraith. I will go back and paint the drivers, the heads. I will go ahead and get all that detailed up. For now, I just put this in here just to get everything fitted in. Once I kind of have everything built, I'll go back and take care of the drivers. The biggest thing when building these cages, just pay attention to the screws. There's various screw sizes. You want to just make sure that you're using the right screw for the right spot. So in the manual, I am through step F10. I'll pick up later starting with F11. So I hope you liked the build so far. If there's anything I missed or anything that you want to point out to me, please go ahead and do so. I think it's time for me to sit back and take it easy. Have a great night.